paved paradise, put up a parking lot. Yeah, they paved paradise, put up a parking lot.
Yeah, Joni Mitchell bellowed and wrote those great lyrics of how they paved over paradise, cut down all the trees, and they put up a parking lot. Today we're going to reminisce a little. We're going to talk about a little of my hometown, Bristol, Tennessee / Virginia. Now sometimes you just need to pave over parts of the paradise, clear out the trees just a little bit, so more people can enjoy the scenery.
Hello and welcome and enjoy
If you don't know, man, you're on the free show.
For many generations, people of Bristol have said the same thing, and I've heard it and you've probably heard it. Good place to live for who? Living paycheck to paycheck. What's there to do for the young folks around here? I remember my grandmother walking us downtown. She would walk us downtown Bristol every Saturday morning. You know, that was back before it crumbled and our elected officials tried to save it. Yeah, I caught the end of the glorious Bristol days. My mom still worked at, Woolworths, and it was in that reminiscent phase right before it morphed into that shop we know as Uncle Sam's, the shop of all dreams, the pawn shop. I remember the debate over who had the best dog. I still prefer Bunny's. That was the first time I ever had that type of chili, which I was a kid and I didn't know too much about chili. Bob's Confectionery, I remember eating there on the way back sometimes. It was a close second, just depending on the taste, and a lot of it was the temperature and how tired you was that day. I also remember walking up the sidewalk, heading home. We lived up on Skull Hill. It was a hot summer's day. That 1 second when you topped right under the sign and you looked up and seen that big scoop in the air, and you knew you would get a reprieve of 2 scoops of that creamy delight of K's ice cream. I also recall my teenage years, boredom, and dreams of grandeur. What laid outside that I-81 corridor? I remember having nothing to do other than cruise out town, and if you parked at certain places, you would get in trouble. The car lot in Kmart. I remember how close I was with all my friends, but we were bored. Everybody talked of getting away from Bristol. I was glad when I escaped Bristol. The few years I was gone, I remember how the big cities and over in the foreign countries, they all struggled, but you always had something to do. Maybe it's because we was in the service and we was in a new place, but even the little communities, they had choices. So a lot of times not much, but they had choices of things you could do. They would find ways to entertain themselves. I remember a lot of the awesome kids I grew up with, even some of the older people that was around us, running away as fast as they could, headed off to college or headed here or joining the military. They would sit and talk and ponder about their hopes of something better, something different, something more exciting. I remember also sitting on Paris Island describing a little town. There was a couple of little towns. A lot of the people I went through boot camp with was from bigger towns. I described my little town to guys from the big city, and some of them could relate, some of them couldn't. I've done a lot of traveling up to this point in my life anyway. I still remember all the bright lights, the different cultures, and riding the trams, or renting a scooter, or different hustles and bustle. I remember that feeling that I needed the liberation of the hustle and bustle from the concrete jungle. I guess I was homesick. So eventually, after all my years of doing this and that, I come back to our great sister cities. After coming back, I had to ask myself, what has become of Bristol, our good place to live? Just as before, it's a good place to spend your retirement or if you want 1K, and they're trying to change that. They're trying to be more progressive. And of course, they got resistance from our wonderful little town. The more things change, the more they stay the same. More and more people's living on minimum wage and wondering how they're going to pay that $40,000 student loan that hasn't equaled out to anything other than a management job for the last 15 years in our little area around here. Many still can't make ends meet. They live paycheck to paycheck. But do not despair, for their dire emotions can be left momentarily on a short trip on the weekend to the entertainment-fueled plunder of downtown, one of the great venues in downtown Bristol. economy can't strive or survive without change and progressive strategies. You have to change with the times, as they say. And I thought that the Twin Cities had finally made a turn. They were making these little diners and this and that. Alas, though, I may be wrong. I may have been really wrong. Execution may well become the downfall of many of Bristol's grandiose plans. As we've seen in the widening streets and the ridiculous parking solutions they've come up with so far. Some of them just ridiculous. And Bristol has engineered a similar condition comparable to like the glorious towns of the gold rush back in the Wild West. It booms and it falls. It booms and it falls. I just hope we don't fall too much. If memory serves me right, a few years back, many of the downtown buildings was fading. I actually went through and took pictures of some of the cracks, and they was falling into obscurity and ruin. The city got together and they voted to save the heritage, save the structures, the history of the old brick and mortar, the history of downtown Bristol. That should surely propel us into the future. Best laid plans of mice and men, right? The major thing that I can't understand and my major grievance is they looked into the future. They didn't look years or decades and ask for input, but they looked months and days and assumed what would be best for our town. For most of those businesses down there, those seats have become a valuable resource for income, tax dollars, and for a glimpse of what we could be. The more people you bring down there, the more places you're going to have to park and the more ways you're going to have to get them in there. That's the new dilemma, having no way for the patrons to secure behind in those seats, as there's no place to park their cars. Our short-sighted little cozy town with dreams of grandeur. Yeah, well, the blueprint of growth's been diddled. It's been diddled by a game plan that was not fully recognized or pre-processed. They didn't really foresee that far into the future. And it will eventually become a perpetual motion of growth for the areas that can be fulfilled and stay unfulfilled. You know, it'll be a revolving door, just like the ghost towns, and eventually that revolving door will need oil or will quit working. Economic fulfillment takes a metropolis into a gambit of wants and needs conflicting with necessity. A lot of the private companies don't want you in their parking lots after business hours. They have to clean up the litter. They're liable for anything that may happen, so they don't want you in their parking lots. And a lot of the bigger metropolises own the parking lots in the town. And they charge you, but $1 a part, $2 a part, not that bad. If we get the Patreons there with their wallets and the seats, then we can become a true contender for our survival. You stay at a restaurant, when you get your receipt, they validate park, pal. That's $2 more can go towards parking lot maintenance or cleanup. I mean, we have to become the combatants that is fighting our fight for us, for our small town. Talking casinos and trains and Amtraks, we forget in this age, it's not like yesteryear. Common people prefer ease and convenience over design and ideology. When indulging in recreation, the new generation, the next generation, almost demand it. So the only thing I really want to say to our leaders, hear whispers from the past and you want to save our heritage. But as one of the bored youth of yesterday, one that went on and become the next generation, our generation and the next generations are going to be the future. And I've had experience of those cities and towns from around the world. And I'm one of many who wish not to look towards town and find ghosts. I implore you, find a balance of the past, the present, and the future. Leave the ghosts to the Halloween tours on East Hill Cemetery. I guess in retrospect, maybe, just maybe, it's time to tear down a small piece of paradise and put up a parking lot.
Like and subscribe so you can get free, y'all. And don't forget, hit that bell so you can tell when we are